Alright guys, so UFC Fight Night Holloway versus Kattar is going down tomorrow on January 16th. This fight card is looking pretty good, I'd say. 11 fights on it now. A lot of fights have been canceled from this fight night or moved to other fight nights or pay-per-views, but now there are 11 fights on this fight night. The main event obviously beating Calvin Kattar and Max Holloway. The co-main event, Carlos Kattar and Matt Brown. We have Jing Lian Li taking on Sonia Ponzinibbio. We have Alessio Di Chirico and Joaquin Buckley. We have Dusko Todorovic and Ponio Soriano, two undefeated middleweight fighters in the world. We have Nasruddin Imavov taking on Phil Halls. We have Joseline Edwards taking on Yan Wu. We have Carlos Felipe and Justin Tafa, David Zawada and Ramazan Emeev, Sarah Moras and Vanessa Mello, and then the first fight of the night with Austin Lingo and Jacob Kilburn, looking like a pretty good fight card. And guys, I already know why you clicked on the video. You want to know some good single bets and some good parlays to make for the UFC Fight Night, and I got you the first fight of the night with Jacob Kilburn and Austin Lingo. I'm going to tell you guys right now, Jacob Kilburn plus 210, and then Austin Lingo minus 230. I say stay away from Jacob Kilburn. Do not bet on this man. He just seems like another one of those fighters that's going to get a couple fights in the UFC, win some fights outside the UFC, get back in the UFC, and never win any fights inside the UFC. Austin Lingo, he's 0-1 inside the UFC, but he'll definitely win the fight against Jacob Kilburn at minus 230. But I still think there's other parlay pieces on this fight card that are better than Austin Lingo. He could be a parlay piece if you want. Definitely would not be a straight bet for Austin Lingo. But if you want, you can put him in a parlay. But there's much better parlays on this fight card other than Austin Lingo. But 100% stay away. 100% stay away from Jacob Kilburn for betting on him. There's no way he's gonna win this fight. And then the second fight of the night was Sarah Moras and Vanessa Mello. Sarah Moss is that like minus 190, minus 200. Basically a 2-1 favorite. But a lot of people right now are saying that Sarah Moss does not deserve to be a 2-1 favorite over anyone. Because Sarah Moss has a record of 6 wins and 6 losses. If you count on the Ultimate Fighter, she has a record of 6 wins and 7 losses. She's so far has a losing record inside the UFC. Vanessa Mello, 10-8 as a pro MMA fighter, has a 0-3 record inside the UFC. Both these fighters absolutely suck. Whoever loses that fight is getting cut in the UFC. But I definitely have Sarah Moss winning that one. If the odds were a little bit lower at minus 180, minus 175, I would 100% put Sarah Moras in a parlay because Vanessa Mello is just absolute trash, so I definitely put Sarah Moras in a parlay. And with Vanessa Mello, there's like no way you could put a single bet on her at plus 210. There's no way you could put a parlay with Vanessa Mello in it because your parlay is going to lose. You're going to lose all your money if you bet anything with Vanessa Mello in it. So I definitely have Sarah Moras winning the fight, but minus 200, minus 210 seems a little bit much. If you can get her minus 200 and under, I would say put her in a parlay or put her in a straight bet because Sarah Moras is definitely going to win that fight. Alright guys, so the next fight on the list, we have a pretty good parlay piece in Ramazan Emeev here. He's currently sitting around minus 265, minus 270, around that range. David Zawada, plus 230, plus 240, around that range. Ramazan Emeev just seems like a very, very good parlay piece. His wrestling, his grappling is pretty good. The only thing with that pick with Ramazan Emeev, putting him in a parlay or putting him in a straight bet, is David Zawada. He does have pretty good submission skills from the bottom. David Zawada is more of a striker, likes to go out there and get knockouts in his fights. If Ramazan Emeev 100% just takes him down over and over again and defends really well against those triangle choke submissions of David Zawada, there's not really much of a way for David Zawada to win the fight because there's no way he's defending on Ramazan Emeev's onslaught of takedown after takedown after takedown. So minus 260, minus 265, wherever you have Ramazan Emeev, I definitely think he's a perfect parlay piece to have. And then the next fight on the list, we have Justin Tafa and Carlos Felipe. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I have Carlos Felipe winning the fight. He's at minus 190, Justin Tafa at plus 175. But Justin Tafa, he has so much of his wins coming by knockout as an amateur or as a pro, 4-1 as a pro MMA fighter, every single one of those wins coming by KO or TKO. This dude has so much power in his hands, so I would not be surprised if Justin Tafa is a parlay buster for some people that choose to put Carlos Felipe in their parlay. That is why I'm going to tell you guys right now, do not put Carlos Felipe in your parlay because Justin Tafa, his power could be too much for Carlos Felipe. So if you want to put a straight bet with a little bit of money on Justin Tafa, he could be the underdog of the night. That is all I am going to say. And guys, the next fight on the list, this fight is basically a 50-50 fight with Joseline Edwards and Yan Wu. I'm going to tell you guys right now, personally, I have Yan Wu winning the fight. I think Joseline Edwards will get the first round, and then Yan Wu will get the second and third round and win the fight by decision. But it's basically a 50-50 fight on these odds. Minus 105, minus 105, minus 110, minus 110, minus 115, minus 115. A 50-50 fight according to the odd makers. But before, when Joseline Edwards was at plus 130, plus 140, around that range, I would say that would be a good place to put in a bet on Joseline Edwards and do a nice single bet there. But now that the odds are around minus 105 for both fighters, I just say stay away from that fight. Alright guys, so the next fight is also a pretty close fight at -117 for Phil Hawes, a +110 for Nasruddin Imavov. Personally, I have Phil Hawes winning this one. I think this would be a perfect straight bet to make. I would not put Phil Hawes in a parlay. No, just don't do it. Don't do it. This is too close of a fight to put in a parlay. Just put a straight bet on Phil Hawes at -117. He has so much power in his hand. Most likely will get a knockout in this one. If it doesn't get the knockout, I still think he'll win the fight by decision. But the fight is so close according to the odds makers, and in my opinion, I have Phil Hawes around -130, -135. So if you can get him around -120, -115, around that range, 100% put a straight bet on Phil Hawes with $10, maybe $20. I mean, Phil Hawes is going to win that fight. Guys, the next fight on the list, this fight is going to be very, very exciting. Dusko Todorovic and Puniho Soriano. Dusko is at -155, and then Puniho Soriano is at +145. This fight is going to be very, very exciting. I have Dusko winning the fight by TKO in the second round. Puniho Soriano can definitely get a knockout in the first, second round as well. Both of these fighters have so much power on the ground and on the feet. I would not be surprised if the +145 underdog, and Puniho Soriano wins the fight. So that is why I'm saying Puniho could be another good underdog pick of the night. I think Justin Tava is a little bit better of an underdog pick on this night. I do still think that Dusko will ultimately win the fight. There definitely is a good chance that Puniho Soriano catches him with a nice right hand that knocks out Dusko Todorovic in this fight. That is why he's another good underdog on this fight card. But unless you're going to bet on Puniho to win the fight as the underdog in a single bet, I say stay away from it. If you bet on Puniho Soriano and put him in a parlay, I think that's a little bit too risky considering Puniho Soriano has so much power. So unless you're going to put a straight bet on Puniho, stay away from this fight. And then we go to two amazing parlay pieces. We have Joaquin Buckley and Alessio Di Chirico, and then we have Santiago Ponzinibbio and Jinglian Li. I am telling you guys right now, Santiago Ponzinibbio and Joaquin Buckley, in my opinion, are two amazing parlay pieces. Joaquin Buckley at -270 as a moderate favorite on the fight. Santiago Ponzinibbio -300 as a heavy favorite on the fight. I think these two are amazing, amazing parlay pieces to add to your parlay. So yeah, Joaquin Buckley, Santiago Ponzinibbio, add them together in a parlay, add them with Sarah Moras or Ramazan Emeev, and you have a very, very good parlay there, set up with 3 or 4 fighters. And then we go to the co-main event with Carlos Condit and Matt Brown. And guys, Carlos Condit -163, Matt Brown +150. And guys, Matt Brown is 40 years old. Carlos Condit 3.5 years younger at 36.5 years old. I'm going to tell you guys right now, that age advantage from Carlos Condit is going to be a humongous factor. If you're 40 years old in the welterweight division, that is definitely going to play a factor in your opponent's favor. So 100%, I have Carlos Condit winning that one. I would definitely not put Carlos Condit in a parlay with anyone, just considering Matt Brown is always super dangerous. But if you're going to put a straight bet on Carlos Condit, I think that's pretty okay. Guys, that leads us to the main event with Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar, two top 6 featherweight fighters in the world. Max Holloway at -150, -155 as a moderate favorite to win the fight. Calvin Kattar at +150, +145 as a moderate underdog to win the fight. I have Max Holloway winning the fight by decision. A lot of people are saying Calvin Kattar is going to get a second round TKO, third round TKO, maybe even win the fight by decision just because he has amazing, amazing boxing. But Max Holloway also has amazing, amazing boxing and kickboxing and has so much experience in the featherweight division. A former featherweight champion, in my opinion, still the best featherweight fighter in the world. And even though I think that Max Holloway is the best featherweight fighter in the world, Calvin Kattar still has that Boston bomb and can still knock out Max Holloway in this fight. And for that reason, I say stay away from betting on this fight. But definitely do look at Sarah Moras, Ramazan Emeev, Joaquin Buckley, and Santiago Ponzinibbio and put them in a parlay because all 4 of those people, I am very, very confident that all 4 of them will win. And even if you want to add Austin Lingo to the parlay, he's also another good pick, but just -230 seems like a little bit too much. And those are the 4 that I really have for very, very good parlay pieces for UFC Fight Night Holloway versus Kattar. But that is it for the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm out of here.